Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? It's Tess Crawley here. I have come today directly from a 2-hour meeting with my accountant this morning. So I've been busily looking at the numbers and crunching those, but also talking about other interesting things that my accountant always helps me with. HR issues, staffing issues, a whole suite of business-ish stuff. So if you're not a business owner, that might sound like a really boring way to spend a morning, and sometimes it can. Luckily, I have a great accountant who I get along very well with, so we actually sit down together over coffee and really talk through what's going on within my practice and within my business, and nut out and iron out any dilemmas that I might be facing from a business ownership perspective. And I actually always come away from those meetings feeling a little bit refreshed, a little bit revived, but also a little bit reassured, I have to say. It's a funny story which I will share with you about my relationship with numbers. Don't think I've told you this story before, but if I have, I apologise. When I was in high school, I had terrible time with maths teachers. I actually got my one and only detention was from my maths teacher, one of my maths teachers in high school, where I was given detention for talking. Now, those of you who know me know that that's probably not a great surprise that I got in trouble for talking at school. On this occasion, I was asking to borrow a ruler, so it was really not very fair. But I did very well in high school. I was always, and in primary school, I recall reading over recently, managed to get hold of my primary school reports, and I was quite surprised to see that I did very well in maths. Because I have this idea that I'm not very good at maths, and I've struggled with that for a really long time, that numbers and I aren't great mates. But the reality is, and this is leading into what I want to talk about today, by the way, the reality is that I actually was, for a long time during primary and high school, up amongst the top of the class in maths. And I did very, very well. And then once I got to about middle high school, once they started separating out different groups of maths students, I was popped into the top maths class, so the most challenging maths group, and found myself promptly at the bottom of the grade, or the bottom of the class, which was a very unpleasant place to be and somewhere I was not familiar with. And so my dad and I talked about it, and we decided that I would go back down to the middle of the road maths class. And from that point onwards, I never felt confident with maths again. But, every time I have a meeting with my accountant, I come away, as I said, reassured, because I find that, my instincts around what's going on in my business and the instincts I have around what I need to do to improve things, actually he reassures, or not reassures, but I guess confirms that I'm on the right track. So as a business owner, as a psychologist, I'm working with people all the time, and as a mentor as well, working with psychologists and other mental health professionals all the time. But the reality is I'm also a business owner, so I'm having to deal with numbers all the time. And that little noise in the back of my head that tells me that I'm not very good with numbers is something that I let get hold of me sometimes. So I really do, like I say, I really do love it when I come away from these meetings with my accountant feeling quite invigorated and reassured, and having my instincts confirmed, that you're on the right track with this decision or that idea. But I have been listening to an audio book lately, and this is one of these things, when you find yourself thinking back to your school days and how hard it is to study and how hard it is to achieve, and whether it's academically or whether you're a sporting person or a creative person, we all work really hard to get to where we want to get to, both at school and in our working lives. There's a book that I'm reading at the moment, so I'm distracted. I'm trying to talk and share so that the sharing doesn't take up too much time. The book is called Peak Performance, and I've written it down. It's by Stulberg and Magness, and I'd show you the cover, but I can't because it's an audio book stored in my phone. And it's a book. I'm struggling with it. It's a little bit dry. There's no swearing in it. I've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk and a few other cheeky souls lately. So it's a very dry, it's not narrated by the author either. I'm not selling it very well, am I? But a psychologist friend who I respect, whose opinion I respect greatly, recommended this book. So I'm ploughing through it, and I've come away today listening to it in my car with a couple of little gems that are just racketing around in my mind, thinking about, actually this is really interesting stuff. So I suspect that if I plough on through this book, I will actually come away with a number of things that will be really helpful for me personally, but also in my mentoring groups, for those mental health professionals that I'm going to be mentoring in those groups. So the first one today was talking about how high achievers, they use the sporting analogy. One of the authors was a high-level athlete, and the other one was a high-level consultant, business consultant, and they both, peaked really early in their careers and then crashed and burned more or less, and then sort of rebuilt their careers beyond that in different directions, and they found each other professionally and ended up working together and writing this book. And they use the example of elite athletes and how they train, and this idea of muscle fatigue. So if you think about muscle fatigue and an elite athlete, or even at the gym, you might be working on a particular muscle group, and you work it your instructor, if you have a personal trainer, will be trying to push you to a point just beyond what you're capable of. So you're getting that maximum fatigue out of those muscles. And then they talk to you about having a rest day. If they're good, they'll talk to you about drinking lots of water and then having a rest day after really fatiguing your muscles. And elite athletes do this too. And so during this chapter of the book this morning, I was listening to stories of these very high-end athletes who are still highly competitive in their 40s, marathons and so on, because they have a structure to their training diary, if you like, their training schedule. They have a structure to their schedule where they have plotted in their day, in their week, and even across their year, periods where they will rest. So they have scheduled in their year those periods of high intense training and high intensity competitions, but they'll also make sure that there's blocked out time just after those high intensity periods where they will rest. And one athlete was saying that it's actually as important as the training. The rest is as important as the training. So when I was listening to this, there was a story of these athletes who were cross-country skiers, and they were training. And this researcher was travelling around, and he was in Sweden, and he saw these cross-country skiers, and they were running really, really hard. And then they got to a hill, and they would slow down, and they would walk up slowly. He was thinking, why are these elite athletes walking? What's that about? And so it was all about, you've just trained really, really hard. Now you need to train easy. So you're still working, you're still training, but you slow down the pace and you slow down the intensity a little bit. I think it's really important for all of us to think about that. I think it's really important to think about, how hard do you work? How hard do you push yourself? And do you actually push yourself and push yourself and push yourself to the point of burnout? Now, for us mental health professionals, that's really, really important to be conscious of burnout. But I think it's true for everybody to be thinking about burnout in your job, in your family life, in your relationship, whatever it might be. Are you pushing yourself to the point of fatigue and beyond without allowing that time for rest and relaxation? Now, it might not be that you're going to spend a day sitting on the couch. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could schedule a day like that every week? I have to say, I dream of having one of those days. Every week I have this idea where I'm going to have a day where I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm just going to do nothing. I might read a book. That's why I listen to audiobooks, because I don't stop. And I think that most of us in this busy, busy world, we don't stop. We've got kids to manage, we've got businesses to run or work to attend to, and homes to look after and pets to feed and all of that sort of stuff. And we don't stop. So the idea really here is about thinking about where you can put time in for stopping. So one of the things that he was talking about in this book was having an idea of the times in your working day, or just in your day in general, where you tend to be the most fatigued. So the times in your day the times in your year when you tend to have the least energy. So trying to look through your working life, and whether that's micro, so like a day-to-day basis, or whether it's macro, looking at the big picture across the course of a year, try and identify those times when you just can't. You're just so tired that you're just fatigued. And they were saying, schedule a break for just before that. So if you know that 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 12:30 in the afternoon is your bummed out time, schedule a break at like 12:15 or quarter to 3, or whatever the time is in your day when it's really tough. Schedule a time to have that break, to get outside, to get some fresh air, just go for a gentle walk, or to go and get a cup of tea and sit out on the front step and relax with that. And then you find that you come back a bit more refreshed and invigorated. And the same with when you choose to have your breaks during the year. Now, if you're like me, all my breaks are dictated by school holidays. So I think this is probably why it's stuck in my mind, because driving back this morning, I was listening to him talking about this, and I thought, I wonder if school holidays are when I'm most tired. I wonder if there's actually a time in the year when I should be more consciously thinking about that's when I have a break. And I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to be watching for that now, though. But I don't know the answer. I don't know if you know the answer of when's your tired time during the year. But I think that we all have it. We all have that time of the year when we just go, I can't do this. Probably around about October, November, people really start feeling that drag. Like, we're nearly at Christmas. We're nearly there. It's just so hard. One of my kids always seems to come crashing on a Thursday. He says, it's just because I'm so close to the end of the week, but there's just one more day to get through and I just can't. Thursdays are his downward spiral day. And so I think, having a conscious view on where your energy sits. There was a study that was being discussed during the reading of the book, and I was driving, so of course I couldn't be writing down, so I can't recall the name of the researcher. But what was found in the research that was done was that there's this lovely study that was done where they brought in some people into a study situation, a group experiment situation, and they had this lovely smell of freshly baked biscuits, and half the group were allowed to eat the biscuits. The other half had to resist the biscuits and were given a plate of radishes. And they could have as many radishes as they liked, but they couldn't have the biscuits. And so what they found in the end was that the people who had to exert energy resisting the biscuits, so I'm talking quietly, I think there's someone at my door and I don't want to answer it because I'd rather talk to you. It's okay. And so the people who were resisting the biscuits were using mental energy to do that, to resist those biscuits, and they performed worse on the task at hand that they were given to do. Like, they were given a challenging task afterwards to complete. The people who were allowed to just freely and in a relaxed fashion eat as many biscuits as they wanted were performing better on that task. And the researcher, manipulated this study over a number of different variables, not just biscuits and radishes, but all sorts of different ways. Whenever there was some kind of, whether they had to complete a challenging puzzle before doing the difficult task, or an easy puzzle before completing the difficult task. So expending that intense energy tires you out. We know this on a common sense level, but what we don't do is we don't think about what we need to be doing to make sure we've got the energy we need to complete challenging tasks. So if you know you've got a big job at hand, make sure you've got that time out, even if it's in the cycle of your day. Have a rest before you tackle that tough job. Now I better go and see who's at the door. I hope you're all having a fabulous day. Sarah and Ali, I know you're there. Thanks for joining me live today. It's lovely to have you with me. I hope you're having a great day. They're persisting to knock on the door, so I'm going to get going. Talk to you later. Bye-bye for now.